streaming now. According to OBS, I am. According to YouTube, I am not. Someone say something if I'm alive. I can't tell if I'm alive. Wake me up. Wake me up inside. I can't wake up. Live stream offline. And then this says I am live, so maybe I need to restart everything. Ooh, BitGreen is saying, what board game is this? That tells me that I am live. So why is nothing showing up on my screen? Hi, Candace. Thanks for letting me know that I'm live. Okay, I guess the next question is, are you guys seeing stuff on the YouTubes, or are you just seeing the chat? I need more light on this. Oh, there we go. Seeing my desktop. Okay. My computer desktop or my physical desktop? Oh, NASA started an alien sculpture today. That's cool. Hold on, I'm gonna reload this page and see what happens. Alright, well this says I'm alive, so that's cool. Hey, now I see stuff. Okay. Now I'm on the same page as you guys. No, literal desktop. Okay. Excellent. Let me get that. Okay, so I can do this. Wow, how far back do I have to get that? Yes. So anyway, this board game is called Shafted. And that is what it is about. A game of gnomish guile, greed, and guts. And crap stuck to it. Malcolm, hey hey. Dottie, welcome. Onassis, how big is your alien going to be? BitGreen says, thinks I made a new stream and the old stream that was scheduled isn't live. That's frustrating. I think I just need to make sure everything is restarted fresh when I come on. Oh, instructions for gold leafing. Cool. This is my gold leafing box of supplies. It's got all the tests that I did on this Zelda Darknet. And on spoons. So, one second. like a dummy, I had this sitting underneath my mold making supplies, and so stuff has dripped on it. Looks like mostly just baby powder, which I use as a mold release agent. I don't know what that is, so I'm gonna have to do some cleanup work too. See if I could get this image a little bit brighter for you guys. A little grainier, but brighter. Man, I wonder how many more lights I can get on this. Well, let me know if the grain's distracting. I can mess with it some more. So I'm trying to decide if I'm going to put the gold leaf on right now or if I want to clean up the edges first. I think what I've found historically is that no matter what I do, the gold leaf gets on stuff around it, and I have to end up cleaning up around it afterwards anyway. So what that means to me is I'm going to do the gold right now. Dottie says, I see something like scaft. Yeah, that's an H. So it is shafted because you play as these little gnomes, this group of gnomes that are digging through a mountain, and you're digging these mine shafts, and you can purposely or on accident collapse the shafts of stone, crushing your own gnomes or other gnomes. So it's a pretty tense game. Onassis says his alien's going to be 15 inches. He's coming out real good too, but kind of heavy, and I don't think I'll fit him in my oven. Ooh, that's always tricky. I like to make things in multiple parts. That solves the problem of being able to bake them and the problem of being able to get in all the little places where you need to get when you're sculpting and painting and stuff. I think I need a tiny little paintbrush. NASA says, I wish I could send you a picture of it. It's right in front of me right now. I'm working on it while looking at your live video. Awesome. Yeah, I hope everyone's working on stuff. But I gotta go to work in about an hour. Aiden says, drones, Onassis, drones, the toy tracker. Is it possible to cut it into pieces and reassemble it afterwards? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But that does require some kind of upfront logistics to figure that out. Okay, so when you're doing gold leaf, the first thing you do is you apply the size, which I have this water-based size called Aqua Size. Hi, Stefan. Welcome. Uh-oh. This may have glued itself shut. Okay. Now you might be wondering why the part that I'm going to be gold leafing is the color that it is. And the reason is because according to all the tutorials that I've seen on gold leafing and instructions that I've read, you want the color that's underneath the gold to have kind of the reflected tones that the gold itself would have, because there's going to be, I mean, unless you do 5 or 6 layers of the gold, there's going to be little cracks and fissures in your gold leaf, like almost microscopic, but enough so where if it's a weird color, it's going to stand out. And if it's a, you know, a color that you would normally see reflected from the gold anyway, then you don't notice it at all. And this to me doesn't seem like a color that you would see reflected, but it is the color that I see in a lot of instructions, so giving it a try. Onassis says, I don't think I'm really good enough to take it apart. Yeah, that's it's one of the things where if you don't plan for it from the beginning, it is very tricky. Trying to be really careful not to accidentally bump the wood with the paintbrush, because then I will get a flake of gold there that I'll have to pretty much carve the wood down to get it off. Alright, I'm going to move this camera again. I don't like it up here. Can't just swing it down really close when I want. Sorry for all the drunk camera work for a second here. Onassis, tell me about your alien. What's it doing? Which version of alien is it? Also, if anyone shot me images over social media last night, I have not gotten to them because after the stream, I think I ate a cookie, watched a YouTube video, and then went right to bed. And then I literally just woke up, rolled out of bed, and turned on the stream. So I slept for something like 13 hours. It's pretty out of it. But if you did link me to pictures, I will definitely check them out and get back to you. What kind of cookie? Stefan asks. Pretty much the best kind of cookie. It's from Costco, and it's massive. I think one cookie is like 800 calories. It's just these giant chocolate chunks. And there's some kind of nut in there, like bits of walnut or something like that. Which I know is a big turn-off to a lot of people, but works great for me. I'm one of those people that when I'm doing well on my diet, and by diet I mean like what I normally eat as a person, not like a special plan that I follow for a little while, but my normal plan is to avoid sugar and carbs. And when I'm doing that right, I'm like eating almost zero sugar and carbs. And I'll do that for several days or a week, maybe 10 days. And then at some point I snap and I turn into a cookie monster, and I will eat like 4,000 calories in a day of cookies and ice cream and waffles, and it's really sad. The whole idea of moderation, of being able to just like, oh, we'll just eat one cookie a day, or, you know, have a sandwich with a normal amount of bread. It's like, yeah, that's great. I'm glad that works for some people. For me, it turns me into Cookie Monster. Like the second I get a little bit of carbs and sugar in my system, I just become ravenous for more. Let's see, Onassis is saying the original Alien from '78 was Sigourney Weaver, the one that has the look like it has a skull on top. Cool, man. Yeah, I think that no one has ever topped the original Alien design. Like, it is the #1 scariest, creepiest creature that the mind of humans has ever devised. I don't really like horror in general, but man, I gotta respect the Alien and how it tapped into all the right, like, you know, scare centers and all those psychological tricks that you pull to make something scary. It did all of them. Stefan says, speaking of high-calorie cookies, they recently introduced chocolate pizza over here, which is basically a huge hot cookie. Yeah, I'd probably eat an entire huge hot cookie. I was at a restaurant called Pizza Hut once, and they had a like brownie platter thing that you could order as a dessert, and I got that, and I was disappointed in how not rich it was, because as an American, like, our sweets are, I think, the sweetest sweets that exist on the planet, and that's just what I'm used to. And these were like European sweets, and it just made me really bummed. So I took their Cinnasticks, which is like cinnamon breadsticks with icing that you dip them in, which the icing is literally pure sugar with like a little bit of cream or something. And I made a sandwich. I just sandwiched the brownie in them and dunked that in the icing, and totally grossed my friends out, but it was much better. For me, it's like if I'm in Cookie Monster phase, I need to satiate that so that it doesn't just hang on. I think, well, that's what my brain's telling my body. It's like, well, you done screwed up, you better, maximize it so it's worth it. And it never is, It's like, it's a couple minutes of pleasure, and then it's gone. It's like, well, now I gotta work out like 30 times to make up for that. Akumo says, no, I didn't get the notification. I wonder if it has something to do with the stilted startup of this stream. I think my computer's too slow, and because I left it on from last night, since I was streaming last night, I thought I would just start OBS, my broadcasting software, and it would just like pop back on, but YouTube was having issues with that. Either that or my browser was, I don't know. So that may have screwed it up somehow. Stefan says, I haven't had American sweets, but Turkish sweets are super sweet too. Not really? So the only Turkish thing I've had is literally Turkish Delight. Right, being a big fan of Chronicles of Narnia, I was really looking forward to it, and it was quite disappointing to me. Yeah, the amount of sweetness that Americans get into their sweets is like almost, I'd say if it doesn't border on it, it is actually perverse. Like, it is so unnatural and against what a human body needs and should ever want. It's really disgusting, and I'm disgusted with myself for craving it so bad. Darn, I got a little bit of glue on the edge there. That's going to be a pain. Mark my words, and I get to the top of that T and I'm gold leafing, I'm going to be cursing under my breath. But only under my breath. This is a family show. Akumo says, super sweet is an underestimation, but it's not the typical sugar sweetness, it's more honey sweetness. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there's totally a difference between the sweetness that's derived from natural ingredients, like honey and fruit syrup and stuff, and then the, like, weird chemical concoctions, mostly corn-based, I think, that we have in the U.S. We just use so much corn syrup in everything. Stefan says true, that probably describes it better. The honey sweetness, yeah. Yeah, definitely all the sweets I've had from other countries, they're different in some way, and that seems like a pretty safe way to describe it. Bitgreen says, if you consider masking tape over the wood, I guess since the font is so intricate, it'd double the workload though. Yeah, pretty much. Like the amount of times that I accidentally get the paint on the wood, you know, there'll be like one or two little chips here. The amount of time it's going to take me to clean up those accidents is probably considerably less than having to cut tape in this crazy intricate shapes. Oh, sorry, I haven't been on camera for a minute. All right. Any of you guys play board games? I do about once a month. I go and do a board game night with friends from work. This one I actually developed at work. We do game jams. The design team does that for exercises. Probably every, I don't know, 6 months or so. We get together and break up into little teams, and we were given some kind of challenge, like you can only use the stuff that's randomly on your table, and it might be dice and cards, or it might be just like 3x5 cards and markers or whatever, right? And then sometimes it's like you got to make a board game based on an emotion, and then we get randomly assigned an emotion like embarrassment or anger or something like that, and it's like, okay, make a game that is about that theme. In this one, I think it was we had to use the stuff on hand. We had to make a 4-player game. We had a deck of playing cards and a bunch of meeple, like those little, guys that you move around a board. We had 4 or 5 different colors, and so we ended up devising this game where we laid the cards out in a grid, flipped over, and when you flipped them over, the different numbers would represent like how much treasure you were getting, like ore, so they were mining through a mountain. And I thought it'd be cool if they were greedy little gnomes, like a mining company of gnomes competing with each other. And by the end of I don't know, we had several hours to develop it. By the end, I was like really excited. I was like, oh, this could be a really cool game. So I just took it and I've been developing it further for the past probably about a year. Just like taking it to game nights, playing it with my friends and family, and working out the kinks and stuff. And it got to a point where I was like, oh, this would be pretty fun to do a tutorial on this. So here we are today, and I'm making it pretty. Slam Pasta, welcome Slam, says, what about masking fluid from watercolors? Yeah, that could also work. Sometimes I'll use that. Sometimes I'll use silly putty. I use silly putty mostly on sculptures where I need to mask off areas. But yeah, it really comes down to how much time it takes to lay that stuff down versus how much time it takes to clean up the little mistakes that I make. All right. Alright, I need to go clean this brush before it gets all gummy. I'll be right back. I also need to get some shots of this for the tutorial I'm working on. Laying down gold leaf always makes good footage because it's so pretty. This is the brand of gold leaf that I use. And let's see, I have some dedicated brushes that I use for it. Pretty much, like, it doesn't need to be super high quality brush. It needs to be soft enough where it's not going to tear the gold. I'm trying to remember that. Do gloves actually help? Sometimes. These are very small and also very fuzzy. I almost feel like, I don't almost feel, I literally feel like they are too fuzzy and not worth it, and I'm never going to use them. Okay. I think that's all the stuff I need. It's been like a year or two since I've used this, so I feel like I'm definitely forgetting something. So follow along live as you learn what I'm forgetting. So, comes in these little sheets. Make sure I'm recording on that camera. Yeah. Let's get close. And then the theory is it sticks only to the glue. You can see there's an area where it did not. I might need to leave this to dry a little bit longer. Let me see what the instructions say here. Well, I shouldn't freeze it. Okay. Surface must be clean, blah blah blah. Room temperature. Proper tack will develop 25 minutes at normal humidity and hold this tack for 24 to 26 hours. Okay, so has it been 25 minutes since I started on that part? Well, I've been streaming for 35 minutes, so I'm pretty sure it's been that long. Dottie says, what does your wife think of the sculpture you are doing of her? She hates it. Like most women in our culture, she has been taught since birth pretty much that she could never be pretty enough, and she needs to hide what her face actually looks like with makeup or she's ugly, and the shape of her face is naturally ugly, and she needs to, you know. I tell her, I don't know, 5 times a day that she's completely beautiful, and it's never enough to overcome the psychological scarring that our culture has given her over her life, and so she doesn't like it. So I will have to have a special secret room that I hide her sculpture in. I'm being a little hyperbolic, but you know, a lot of women are very insecure about the way they look. Well, so are guys, but I've noticed it especially amongst women. And it's sad and stupid, and I think us men need to work extra hard and be extra careful to not be stupid about that and make comments, you know, like anytime, the whole like celebrity culture, right, of look at these women on, you know, on the beach, look how bad they look because their bikinis don't fit right or whatever. It's just, it's so stupid. I'm so tired of that. Which is almost exactly what you asked, right? Was for me to go off ranting on a political tangent. Oh, hi, Amy's back. Just lurking for the most part. Need to do some homework. That's fair. You don't need to be the ambassador every time. So in theory, the gloves are supposed to make it so you don't get the gold sticking to your fingers like this. In reality, what I found is that it just ends up getting, like, yeah, it doesn't stick to your fingers, but you end up with white lint worked into your gold leaf, and that is worse. Oh, but Dottie, to more directly answer your question, specifically, Heather doesn't like this. The more the sculpture looks like her, the less she likes it. I'll put it that way, because she doesn't like her face. So it's not that she's ungrateful, the fact that she has a husband who loves her so much that he wants to, you know, do a portrait of her. It's just that she's had experiences throughout her life that makes her dislike the way she looks. And so it's a reminder of the way she looks. So I put a texture on here that I would hope would make this gold look like gold nuggets. And I think it's working out pretty well. Tony Clavel, gave me a tip. That's right, I turned on those tips, and I was thinking to myself, do I want to have those tips on? Well, let me read. It says, Tony Clavelli says, been using your sculpture videos to work on my stop motion puppets and improving so much. Then you make sure to promote positive politics? Thanks so much. Wow. Well, of course, I think they're positive political statements. Other people think they're terrible, so I'm glad you agree, though, Tony. Thanks so much for that. Yeah, I turned on that tip system. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it on. I didn't know, like, I couldn't find information about it. Well, okay. The basic information thing I want is like how big of a cut does YouTube take, or does it give the artist all the money? And it turns out they take 30% of whatever people tip. And there's an option there, I think, to tip something like $500, which, that's bananas. But I feel like if I was going to give someone a huge tip, like I was really appreciative to them, and I gave them $500, and then find out later, oh, they only got 350 of it, I'd be pretty upset. $10, so like I get $7.50 of that. It's not like you've been ripped off at that point, right? But man, those higher numbers, like, I'm worried that someone's gonna do that, and then I'm gonna feel really bad. So thank you for the tip. B, thank you for reminding me that I think I need to turn that off. There are other tipping apps that I can hook up, but it looks like they all require running them through Twitch. So, like, in order to tip, the person would have to do some weird shenanigans where they go through another app, which the obvious advantage to this YouTube one is it's built in and super easy to do. Tony, did I ask you what kind of stop motion you're doing? I know we talked about it before. I don't remember if you told me, like, what's the theme? Like, what are the characters like? And do you want to work at Leica someday? Did you know that the baby from Labyrinth works at Leica? Toby Froud? Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to come in here and do some touch-ups, but that's fine. Gold leaf is made for that. What I found is obnoxious, like, what's awesome about gold leaf, if you're doing a thing and you're covering the whole thing in gold, it's super awesome and super fast and super easy. When you're doing it on elements, areas of a sculpture or something, that's when it's just really annoying to work with. Amy says, whoa, never seen that feature before. That's a really large box for it, at least on the YouTube app. Is it? Oh, right, because it sticks the comment up there. Tony says, this just seemed easier than Patreon. I don't quite have the monthly kind of money. I actually have no need of any gold leafing, but just wanted to say some kind of thanks. Yeah, well, that's a good way to do it. I really appreciate that. I've been investing. I've probably invested over $300 in live streaming now between the various cameras and rig that I need to set up, and different wires and powered USB, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, every little bit makes me feel less like an idiot for spending my time and money doing this. Tony says, I don't think I've talked to you before about it. I don't think I have the delicate touch for Leica. I worked on a Korean show for a while, Galaxy Kids. It's on Amazon Prime. Pretty unwatchable. Is it like a kids show? Now I want to see that. If it's on Amazon Prime, I'm gonna have to look that up. Galaxy Kids, huh? Stefan says, the Galaxy Kids thumbnail looks good at least. Is that what your thumbnail is? I can't see it from back here. But I mean, is that what the stop motion you're doing is for that show, or are you doing something for yourself? Stefan says, by the way, is there any way to increase chat length? I can only see 3 comments at a time. I don't think there's a way on my end for that. I don't know if you can configure it on your end or not. You know what? Your image looks really bad. Let me adjust my camera again to see if I can make this not as bad. Let's see, I think it was the gain that made it brighter but added all that grain into it. Well, that's less grainy, but it is still blurry. Oh, I know why. I have it zoomed. I had it zoomed from last night. I'm so sorry. There we go. Wow, okay, that explains so much. Except it didn't actually unzoom. Come on. There we go. Tony says, I don't recommend it. I built some models / sets, and my work's on episodes 1 and 20. Okay. Animating for music documentary. Wanted realistic puppets. I moved back to the States last year, so no more Galaxy Kids. All right. What kind of music documentary? Is it something you're working on your own, or are you being contracted to do it? I'll definitely check out episode 1 of Galaxy Kids, though, just to see your work. I love stop motion. Most stop motion is bad. Even the good stuff, it's like there's just something intrinsically cheesy about it. I think it not in the sense that like you can't do serious emotional content with it. I mean, you look at Harryhausen's stuff, his skeletons and Medusa and that kind of, that stuff's really cool, But the fact that we have ways to make creatures move realistically now kind of makes it retro in a way, I guess. Maybe retro is a better thing to say than cheesy. Because it's not like the work is cheesy. It's just the effect. It's like, it's old-fashioned now. But not in a bad way. Not in the way, like, when you look at a lot of CG, especially from the 90s when they were still figuring out a lot of basic stuff, like, the movie Jumanji is almost unwatchable with the the animal CG in that. It's so bad. Let's see, Amy is saying that on the website you can click the 3 dots on the side and select pop-out chat, then enlarge the window from there. On the app, I don't think there's a way to do it. Wow, great tips, Amy, thank you. I'm gonna take note of that next time. Tony says it's a contract job. A band did 40 shows in 10 days. 40 okay, so four shows a day. And some of the live performances will be animated because, as the director said, they got garbage footage. That is a very interesting solution. Okay. When that is out and available, please let me know. I wanna see this solution in action. What is the band called? Tony says, needs to be exclusively stop motion or it tends to look pretty horrendous. Oh, right, like if you put stop motion in next to live action or CG or something like that, it can, yeah. Unless you've purposely designed the CG to look like stop motion, like a lot of places do that. Well, a lot of the only couple places that still do CG or still do stop motion definitely mix in a fair bit of CG with it, and yeah, it can be made to marry nicely if you know what you're doing. All right, I think I got the first coat down pretty well. Let's scrape it all off, see how it looks. Someone said something about Jumanji 2 and regretting it. Yeah, Akumo says, you guys know there's a sequel? That's right, there was. Came out just last year, I think. Onassis says, nice work. Amy says, a sequel to Jumanji sounds really bad. I haven't seen it in forever, though. Stefan says, they're rebooting Jumanji right now, I think, and that definitely sounds like a bad idea. Oh, it didn't? I thought it came and went. What am I thinking of? It was something with The Rock. Is that... Maybe that was... Yeah. Maybe I'm remembering previews and thinking it came and went. Someone I saw on Facebook, someone made a like super amazing Jumanji board. You know, they cut it out of wood and carved it. Most of the intricate sculpture they did in clay and then cast that in resin. But they plastered it onto the wood and made it look like wood. And, oh man, it's super good. You should look it up if you haven't seen it. Boy, I don't know how no glue ended up there. Kumo says, yeah, I think it was called Zathura. Yeah, so there was a sci-fi version of Jumanji that came out a couple years after it. It's a couple kids, a couple boys. I think they were brothers in that one. I seem to remember it was okay. Tony says Zathura was pretty bad. Yeah, it probably was. Jumanji in space. Akumo says, I think I liked the movie back when I was a kid because, well, I was a kid. Yes, indeed. Kids have much lower standards. Tony says, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle is what you're thinking of. Okay. Aiden. Hey, Aiden. Don't know if I've seen you on here yet today. I know it's been a while, but I think that'd be distasteful / disrespectful to Robin Williams. I don't know if I'd go that far. It's not like he invented Jumanji. He was just in a Jumanji movie. I mean, if you want to talk about distasteful and disrespectful, I would say the fact that all these movie studios keep rebooting the same movies instead of using any of the like thousands of incredible books that have original news stories out there, that's distasteful to me. Like, gosh, there's so many good stories that haven't been told. Why do you keep retelling the same stories? Well, I mean, I know why. It's because brand recognition, and so they think their risk is lower, that they'll lose money. And I don't know what the statistics are on it, but gosh, it sure does seem like almost every single one of those reboots is just a big flop. So man, the camera is having a heck of a time focusing on this for some reason. I don't know if it's because of the gold reflections. I will do some little touch-up dabs, and I'll make sure to wait 25 minutes before I put the new stuff on. So I'll probably go back and do some more sculpting on the fairy bust while I'm waiting. Amy says, but those reboots are so bad though. Yes, they almost always are. I'm trying to think of one that wasn't. Let's see, they did RoboCop, that was bad. They did The Thing, that was bad. They did a bunch of TV shows like The A-Team. 21 Jump Street. That was actually, I thought that was well done and good. It's not redoing a movie, but yeah, I can't think of many. Stefan says the reboots flop with critics, but financially they're probably doing fine. Yeah, maybe. Tony says, I missed the beginning of this. Is that your own typeface, or did you use stencils? The style looks awesome in gold. It looks pretty awesome, but I haven't seen it yet. Oh, It, the reboot. Yeah. I have not seen the original It, actually. To answer your question about typeface, this is not my own. I did modify it a little bit to make it work better in this vertical thing. What I did was I just, in Photoshop, I laid it out, and then I rasterized it and made all the tweaks that I needed, printed that out on 2 papers, laid it over, and then I dremeled through the paper to get the shape. I can't remember what this font is called, but yeah, it's really fun. It is perfect for the kind of theme and style for the game, which is about whimsical, angry gnomes who are trying to crush each other with rocks while they try to get jewels before the other gnomes do. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna grab the original box real quick so you can see what I'm upgrading. Yeah, so like I said, this was done in a game jam, and so we had pizza for lunch, and so this is a pizza box slash board game box. But that was my first, we were eating lunch, and so I sketched this out on a piece of paper real quick and just like plastered it on the pizza box. But that's the kind of theme of it. After I did it, this quick little graphic design concept, it occurred to me that this was almost exactly the same box art as a game called Sculpting, which is a game that I kickstarted. You should Google it right now and see how close it is to that. It's hilarious. Like I didn't do it consciously at all, but I just liked it so much. And yeah, I think it even has like a person running with treasure away from another person who's getting trapped or hurt somehow. Yeah, pretty hilarious how that stuff can stick in your subconscious and then you accidentally rip people off. So anyway, I figured I should probably do a very different design for the final. Tony says, it was a mini-series when I was a little kid. Oh, really? Like, different than the movie? I did not know that. Aiden says the only horror movie I've seen recently that didn't make me roll my eyes was The Babadook. Yeah, I liked The Babadook. Somehow I've seen a lot of horror movies, even though I say I don't like horror movies. Well, I'll tell you, the ones I don't see are any of the ones that are this house is haunted, and here's footage of doors opening and slamming. Whatever that subgenre of horror is, just I have no interest in that. That and any of them where it's about people being tortured, just don't enjoy that at all. I think I did see the first Purge movie, just because other people were around and wanted to see it. It was alright. It had enough of a theme to it, it had something to say at least. Yeah, movies that have something. The older I get, that's really what separates movies I like from movies I don't. Is was there a point to this, or was it just someone who wanted to make something like a movie they liked before, and they just redid a lot of the, aesthetics of it? Or did they actually have something to say? I think the best horror movie I've seen in years and years and years was The Witch, which a lot of people don't like, and I totally understand why, because it's totally about atmosphere and theme, and almost nothing about a plot or amazing things happening. It's just such a dense, dark atmosphere, and so pure to what it's doing. The accents being so harsh and super hard to understand, it just makes you feel like you're watching, you're actually in a place you don't fully understand, which is unsettling in and of itself, and then you add the supernatural elements to it, and it's just wow. Really well done. Stefan is saying, I'm now imagining a horror movie trailer where some guy is violently slamming doors. Yeah, you know what? That's pretty much what I see in my brain when I see those previews. I'm well, they just put a rope there and slam that door, and it's startling because any sudden movement and loud sound out of nowhere is going to be startling. That so what? It doesn't say anything. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't move me to think or to feel anything except, well, that was an unpleasant rush of adrenaline for no reason. But some people, different people have different physiological reactions to the startle reflex, and so for some people that's a pleasurable experience. You get a rush of endorphins, and then it's whoa, that was great, and it's just not for me. So I am by no means judging people who enjoy getting startled by startle movies. It's just not for me. Tony says, I only like the Rick and Morty Purge episode. Was that in the first season or the second? I'm trying to remember what that was. Did they end up destroying the entire world and they find a different version of the world in that one? Rick and Morty is incredible. That is one of those shows where everything about it aesthetically turned me off, so I didn't bother watching it, but I just kept hearing from people over and over and over again, no, you gotta see it, it's great. I was finally fine. I even managed to block out of my head or forget or something that It's co-created by the creator of Community, which is one of my all-time favorite TV shows ever, so it was pretty stupid of me to ignore it for as long as I did, but yeah, now I'm super on board. Need to keep rotating this so I will make sure that I'm finding all the cracks. Once something is gold and reflective, you get so many different lights bouncing around and colors being reflected that it's easy to miss gaps if you're not looking at it from a variety of angles. Tony says, that's the Cronenberg episode. They're not really subtle with their references. No, they are not. Dan Harmon loves his lampshades. He's all about calling out his references very blatantly. Thinking one thing I might try doing after I've got the gold on there is I might try doing some I might try doing a wash over it to try to, at least around the edges, I think, to bring out the texture in the gold. Alright, I'm going to wash this brush again, and then I'm going to do some sculpting on the fairy bust for 25 minutes while this glue dries. I should show you guys this. These are the first round of the figures that I'm working on for the board game. I've had these little guys 3D printed. So you can see they're in various states of painting tests. So I was trying to figure out the best way to paint 40 of these, because each team has 10. Come on, focus, there we go. Yeah, each team has 10 of them, and boy, this camera was doing so good at focusing before. I must have changed some setting, because it's really bad at focusing now. Hold on, I'm going to do a quick test. Let's see. Zero. Okay. Okay, does that make it better? Yeah. Looks better there. Okay. Yeah, so these are the angry gnomes that the players will be digging through the mountain with. And I made one basic gnome model, the non-painted ones you can't really see very well, but I did one basic model, and then I made 10 variations of them, so like 5 with pickaxes and 5 with shovels. Come on, focus, you could do it. Huh, okay, gonna have to do more research on my camera, sorry guys. Yeah, anyway, it's gonna be a fun, pretty game. So Aiden says, so when is this game hitting the shelves? Well, probably never, because it was developed in a game jam at work. But what I am planning on doing is putting the instructions and all the art assets online so that you can print your own version of it. Orestes says, I was just watching The Martian, and the actor who plays Troy in Community turns up in it. Oh, that's right. He was like the scientist wonderkind who solved all the technical problems, right? Stefan says, don't gnomes get a natural bonus on illusion magic? It's probably not the camera's fault. Good point, Stefan. They are probably just immune to being filmed. That camera doesn't want to cooperate. Love the tackle box for the tiny pieces. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, I've got several tackle boxes. They're handy to have around when you've got a variety of art projects with lots of little bits and bobs. You can just kind of file everything away in in one box and work on other stuff, and then just pull out the box when you need it. Alright, so now I'm looking at these eyes with fresh eyes after last night, and I think I actually need to move on to other parts of the face before I can say whether the eyes are working well or not. Eyebrows would probably help. Slam Pasta says, for future reference, you should probably wear a robe or wizard hat when presenting a handful of gnomes. Good point. Man, this looks so weird on the camera compared to what it looks like to my human eyes. I wonder if there's different maybe I need to find a webcam that has a different lens. Like all of them I've seen just have like tiny lenses that are like cell phone lenses designed to get as much like width as possible, so they're all so fisheye-y. I don't know if that eyebrow is helping or making it worse. I'm gonna say it's helping. It makes me feel like this brow ridge is way underdeveloped now. And of course I'm going to feel that way because I just shaved it down last night. So of course now it's going to be like, oh, you need to make it bigger. And then I'm going to make it bigger, and then I'm going to look at it the next day and say, oh, it needs to be shaved off again. That is the Sisyphean task of the portrait artist who is not good enough to do it right. Just keep rolling that boulder up the mountain. Just do it again. Falls back down. Do it again. Falls back down. Well, one thing I definitely want to change, and I know that I can change right now, is this smirk. She looks like she's smirking. Like one corner of her mouth is higher than the other, and that's not what her smile actually looks like. You can see she has a very symmetrical smile. She doesn't have like a Indiana Jones smirk, but she looks like the sculpture does. Get the light out here in a better spot, maybe. So if I get this up and down axis, and then I try to make a line that goes perfectly, wait, is that perpendicular? What's the opposite of perpendicular? What's this? That is, sorry, I just woke up an hour ago. I can't even word right now. Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to make this a perfect cross so that I can see where the corners of the mouth are, and it is confirming that this corner of the mouth is higher than this one. So now I have to ask myself, should I move this one up or should I move this one down? Or worst case scenario, do I need to move this one down a tiny bit and that one up a tiny bit? That is worst case. So certainly in this picture here, the corners of the mouth seem to be higher than the bottom of the top lip, right? Where you see the teeth there. It looks like on this side it stays perpendicular. Again, not sure if I'm using that word right. More coffee. So instead of coffee, I have my Starbucks Pepsi Max. Never learned to like coffee. My wife works at Starbucks. Imagine how amazing that would be if I liked coffee. She doesn't even like coffee either. She's worked there for 12 years now. By the way, hi William Beaver. I don't think I've seen you pop up in the chat before. Welcome. Yeah, pretty confident that I want to bring this corner of the mouth up higher. I had the teeth all sculpted in here before, but it was from years ago, and so the Sculpey on those teeth was like really crumbly, and I kept having to, you know, as I was adjusting the lips, it kept messing up the teeth. So I just covered it with a thin layer of fresher Sculpey, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake it, and after I bake it, I'll go in and sculpt the teeth so that I'm not mucking up the lips at the same time. I am going to be doing a tutorial once I start my intermediate series on Sculpey. I'm going to be doing one about about doing the teeth first, baking those, and then setting those in sculpture for open-mouthed figures. Really looking forward to that. I've got a couple really interesting projects I want to do for that. Yeah, that's definitely looking better already, I think. Malcolm says parallel. Yes. This is parallel. This is I already lost the initial word that I had. Oh man. It's a good thing art doesn't take brains, or I would be completely useless right now. Of course that's not true. Art takes brains. It just it's a different part of brains that I'm capable of doing when I'm tired. Or it's not tired. I slept for 13 hours. If anything, I'm just a little loopy from being overslept and yeah, no matter how much I sleep, for the first couple hours after I wake up, I'm pretty useless as a human. Tony says, oh, speaking of mouths, if you're interested, I'd love to see something on replacement mouths. Replacement mouths? Oh, you mean for like for stop motion, like when you're changing the mouth shapes to be vowels or different sounds? Crossed. Stefan says crossed is orthogonal. Yes. Orthogonal, parallel. What was the word I was using? Stefan says when it's 90 degrees, it's orthogonal. Okay. I will absolutely forget that the second it scrolls off my screen. Just like I kept forgetting that the inside of the eye is the canthus. But I remembered it now because I have a mnemonic for it. Because there's a region in the game that I work on in Guild Wars 2 called Cantha, and it's close enough where I just need to remember one syllable. Henrik says, "Hey Josh, that sculpture looks really nice so far." Thank you, Henrik. I wish you guys could see it not distorted from the webcam lens, but gosh, the price I have to pay to get it on my DSLR camera is just too high. Like my camera shuts off every half hour. I have to manually refocus it every time I move it. It's just a disaster. Tony says, or just making mouths separate from the rest of the face. Okay. That's interesting. Let me grab something for you real quick. Oh, where'd it go? Okay, well that's a bummer. It was right over there and now it's not, but I made these Lynx figures with, because I was going to be doing kind of a stop motion, like a pseudo stop motion thing for a video game cinematic for a friend who was making an indie game. And I was going to photograph these sculptures, and I had a hinged jaw for them. So once I randomly find that later on the next stream or whatever, I'll be sure to bring it up if you're around, and I'll show you how I did that. Yeah, making mouths separate from the rest of the face, which is unnatural, and I suck at it, says Tony. Yeah, I mean, mouths are pretty built into the face. I think with the Lynx characters that I had, there's an advantage because, like, cats already kind of have that sort of shape built in a little bit, so it's not that hard. But yeah, I'll think about that. Malcolm, yes, perpendicular, thank you. Keep reminding me and I'll keep remembering. What is perpendicular now, though? Someone tell me what perpendicular is. Akumo says, is that a worm sitting on the desk behind him? Yes. This is, if you're referring to this guy. Let's see, does his light work? No, he's not plugged in. But, yeah, this is a worm. I made a tutorial on how to make a gummy worm. And since I had the mold, I figured I might as well make a non-gummy version of it. So, spitting a big glob of poison. Sorry, I can't get the camera back far enough to get much of him in there. Yeah. And unfortunately, the way I made his base, you know, like he's busting up out of the sand. Most people see that as a big chocolate chip cookie. And yeah, okay, fair enough. I've been trying to get away from making round bases because that's just kind of my default. With the Colossus that I just finished recently, I originally had them on a round base, and halfway through I decided to make it more interesting, and I'm really, really glad that I did that. Dottie says, are you planning on painting it when you are done? If so, what kind of paint do you use? Yeah, I'm definitely going to be painting this. I'm going to be making it look like it's ivory, like antique ivory for the face, because my wife is very pale, so that makes sense to me. And then I'm going to gold leaf her hair, and then she's going to have fairy wings sticking out like this that are going to be look like stained glass. So I'm going for like a very Art Nouveau fantasy look. Tony says perpendicular T parallel colon 2. Oh, okay, so you're showing me parallel is two lines next to each other, and perpendicular is like a T. Okay, but how is that different than, what was the other word you guys already used? This is so embarrassing. Orthogonal. Okay, so how is perpendicular different than orthogonal, or is it different? Okay, so Akumo says, sudden realization, parallel, like the two L's. Henrik says, that sounds amazing, really want to see it finished later. Yes, there will be a tutorial about how to do faux stained glass that I'm going to do on the wings when I'm done with her. You know, actually, come to think of it, I should do a tutorial on just painting a surface to look like antique ivory as well. Like, I'm going to be doing it anyway. Why not do a tutorial? The answer to that on why not do a tutorial is because every tutorial ends up taking me 10 hours of editing. That's why. Now I feel like the ocular socket is bulging out too far there. I don't just feel that way, I know it is. The eyebrow really, I don't know what it was, like it required me to see an eyebrow to create enough context for me to realize, oh wow. So it's doing, you know, like I always say in my tutorials on faces, you don't want a box face where it's like goes out straight and then goes in straight. You want to keep fighting to keep a nice U shape on the face. So, you know, teaching teaches the teacher as much, if not more, than the student learns. And just, you know, I just always need to be reminded of the basics over and over and over again. Okay, Tony says, orthogonal is like a plus sign, but it's not really that different from perpendicular. Stefan says, Google claims that perpendicular is for two lines, and orthogonal And orthogonal is for a set of lines. Probably doesn't matter unless you're a mathematician. Yes. Well, I mean, it matters when I'm trying to articulate a concept about art that requires arranging lines properly, I guess. I guess it matters as much as knowing the names of muscle groups, right? Like, if you could just say this shoulder muscle here as opposed to, you know, the whatever deltoid, you've communicated just as well. And when I say the lines need to be an X or a plus sign instead of these shape, which everyone knows parallel, right? Was that one of the words I couldn't remember earlier? I think it was. I think my brain is 10% more active now, and I'm able to remember the word parallel when needed. Akuma says, I could imagine one being used in geometry, not for lines, but for vectors, maybe. Yeah, probably. So, working on video games for a living, I'm exposed to a lot of math talk from programmers, and so I kind of absorb through osmosis vague concepts of what they're talking about, but I'm never, you know, like, totally sure. Like, I know what a frustum is, which is drawing lines out from your point of view into a three-dimensional space, and whatever is within that cone is your frustum, and whatever is outside of it is outside of your frustum. And I learned what interpolation is. That's like blending between two numbers or positions or animation states. But if like pressed on the details of what that like actually means, yeah, I would be pretty lost. Oh, you know what? Okay, so remember how I was saying this ocular socket seemed too depressed, like too far back because I shaved it back last night. But now I'm just realizing as I'm fixing this, I'm bringing it more in line with this side. So that's awesome. I'm like solving what I thought was an outstanding problem over here by fixing the real problem over here. Okay, I have a question for the 16 of you that are watching right now, and I want you to be totally honest with me because you can't hurt my feelings on this. Is there such a thing as too long a live stream? And if so, where is that number for you, right? Because at some point you're like, it's okay hanging out, but there's other things I need to get to, other things I'd like to be doing. Like, what's a sweet spot for you? Or is it like, you know, if he was live streaming all day, that's cool. I could just like pop in when I'm bored, or, you know, something else is not requiring my full attention, and I could just put it on and off as I please. Curious what you think. Alexander, hi Alexander, says Josh is in motion this time. Yes, I am moving. Were you on one of those times where my camera was randomly freezing up? I got a webcam, so that should not be a problem anymore. Instead, I get new problems, like it doesn't focus the way I think it should. Like when the first night I was using it, it was focusing beautifully. Like within a second or two, it was perfectly focused on exactly where I wanted it. and it would auto refocus when I needed it to, and now today it is just having problems. So as I'm doing the ocular socket here, there's two bones, kind of landmarks, that I want to keep in mind. There's I think it's called the zygomatic arch. I could be totally wrong. Let me get my reference real quick. Zygomatic arch, maybe? There is this guy, which goes from the bottom of that of the ocular socket there, and then there's this ridge where, you know, there's kind of a flattish plane on this side and this curved curve there, and it creates this arc. So when I'm shaving down this part of the face, I want to be careful that I'm not like going on this part where I'd be diminishing that, or just like flattening over the little bit of a bulge that's going to be showing from this part. Let me find some good zygomatic arch music real quick. Heather will keep an eye on you while I do that. Okay, so Aiden says, are you ever satisfied when you finish a project? Nothing I finish ever seems finished to me. Yeah, who is it who said great art is never finished, only abandoned? Some great artist said that. Personally, most of the time I finish, I'm satisfied enough, and I think that just comes from the experience of I've done so many projects at this point. I recognize that the times where I just sit there and try to get it perfect, I just get more and more frustrated, and so I've kind of like developed subconsciously a way to let go when I feel I'm at that point. There's a point of diminishing returns where you're like, I could spend another 30 hours and only make 1% a difference. And should I do that? It's like, no. Alexander says, option 2. Let's see, what is option 2? The stream forever or the short amount of time? Kumo says, solving the problem without even noticing. Yes, that's always the best way to solve problems. Alexander says, I was. Oh, you were on this stream when it was freezing up. Okay, gotcha. Henrik says, well, for me it depends on the time of day. I will happily have a live stream running all day in the background at work to just listen in and watch while stuff is compiling or whatever. Yeah, that's me as well. Aiden says, an hour to an hour and a half is what I can comfortably watch in one sitting, but like you said, some people put it on in the background or just watch it periodically. Kumo says, for me it will always be nighttime when you're streaming, so it depends on my blood-coffee ratio. I'd say 2 to 3 hours, I'll get sleepy. Something between 1 and 2 hours is what I like most. Hendrik says, this type of stream is a bit slower paced, so it works nice for longer casual viewing, I think. It's not speed sculpturing. Yes. Alexander says, stream forever. Alright. That's gonna get boring when I'm sleeping, but yeah, we're coming up on almost the 2-hour mark on this, but I do want to still finish that gold, although it has been more than 25 minutes. So yeah, let's get that gold finished, shall we? Dottie says 2 hours is good for me. Okay. Probably have a little bit of anchoring effect going on in this informal poll, because 2 hours is about what I've been doing normally. And some of these spots just seem really stubborn. Like, I'm sure that I put glue on it. I'm sure it's been more than 25 minutes, but man, that gold leaf does not want to stay there. Henrik says, but seriously, whatever works for you. If you feel comfortable with it and won't feel burned out, then just do your thing. Yeah, so I mean, when I'm doing just like this kind of work that doesn't require, you know, when I'm filming for my tutorial, I have to, you know, spend a lot of cognitive cycles on thinking about cameras, recording equipment, audio equipment, lighting, and you know, there's a lot of overhead that goes into figuring that stuff out. So that I could not stream for very long. But this kind of thing where it's just like I would be doing this anyway, and so having, you know, looking up at chat occasionally and adjusting a camera occasionally, I haven't noticed it taking a lot of I don't know, whatever resource is required to do that, whether it's emotional energy or whatever. Like, I'm not feeling exhausted by it, so I could probably do it as long as I'm doing this kind of is this mundane work? I don't know how you would describe this, but it's just like yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's times where I could literally stream in, you know, all weekend, just because I'm out here doing this stuff anyway. So why not? But on the other hand, there's got to be some amount of like community fatigue that creates, where, well, it's like diamonds, right? The more that are in circulation, the less they're worth. So the more hours of live stream that I'm doing, the less incentivized people are to check it out when I'm on. So I don't know what the balance is between that. Aiden says, I always feel creepy when sculpting human faces. You feel creepy, like you feel like you're doing something weird, or you feel like the face itself is creepy? Henrik says, guess gold leaf requires some practice to get to do what you want. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely... Being a jack of all trades and master of none is frustrating on many levels, and one of which is that I don't really get like really good at anything. So there are people who do gold leaf for a living, obviously, and they just bang this stuff out and know every process and technique and material, and I've only done it, you know, couple dozen times. And more importantly than the number of times I've done it is the space between the times that I do it. So I only do it once every couple of years, which means I've effectively forgot 80% of the stuff that I figured out the last time I did it. Let's see, Slam Pasta says, do art for 20 minutes, then play video games for 4 hours per stream. I don't think I want to get into that arena. That is a very crowded arena right there. My son does that. He streams Rust and games like that. And I'm like, well, if it makes you happy, go for it. Yeah, gold leaf is very finicky because it's, by necessity, it is incredibly thin, and any amount of static will make it cling, and then just the oils in your skin will make it stick. So yeah, it's always clinging and sticking to places you don't want it. Tony says, have to go, but thanks for the videos, Josh. I'll be back for more of these. Awesome. Thanks again, Tony. Thanks for that tip as well. That was very kind, very heartwarming. Again, makes me feel like all the time and money I'm investing in these streams is worth it. So. Slam Pasta says, why don't you use tweezers to move it around? It looks like a lot of fun either way. I'll have to try it. Yeah, so I actually bought these bamboo tweezers from a gold leaf supply company, and because I saw a demo where people were grabbing the gold, applying it, blah 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 blah. I was like, wow, that looks way better than fingers. And I found that it was actually, let's see, what did I find? The ability to manipulate it how I wanted it was trickier with these, and they kept tearing the gold more than it was happening with my fingers. Although, now that I'm trying to demonstrate how bad they are, they're working totally fine. So, you know what? Thanks for the reminder. I'm going to see what happens when I use these now. Originally, I tried with smaller metal ones, and those, yeah, just tore through it instantly. It was like trying to pick up the leaf with scissors. Bitgreen says, I think a live stream can go as long as the host is engaged. I'm leaving now to eat, though. Thanks for sculpting with me, everyone. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for the feedback, Bitgreen. Let's see, Akumo says, because you're not used to the limited movement, probably. Same story with gloves. Yeah, could be. Although, I still think that the gloves that I got are just crappy gloves. They're just... they create lint. Which, having the lint stick to the glue instead of the gold is not good times. Onassis says, I'm at work, but I'm still here with you. Thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of times at work when I'm doing a, specifically like repetitive stuff that only takes some amount of my brain cycles to do, where having a stream on is really nice. Here's a great example of what I was talking about, where the gold is just like, it stuck to the wood there on the inside of that, and I don't know why. Like, I'm pretty sure I didn't get glue on it, but it is on there. So, but I think I can fix that just by, I'll be kind of re-outlining the letters, and I'll just cover it up then. Henrik says, the result does look cool though. Yeah, I think so. Slam says, so why are you going to gold leaf the bust instead of painting it gold? The texture worth that much trouble? Because gold leaf reflects like real gold and gold paint does not. And actually doing a large surface like the hair on that bust is not going to be half as difficult or obnoxious as what I'm doing with these fine little lines on this text. Alright, let's do a quick flyover. Dane asks if the symbols are raised or laser cut. So what I did was I designed the logo using a font that already existed. I made it in Photoshop, I printed it out, I lightly glued it to the surface, and then I used a Dremel to dig in, and then I used I used epoxy sculpt to make the gold, the raised kind of gold texture, and then did the gold leaf on top of that. And I think the next step is going to be probably going to go in with some dark ink and just clean up the edges. And then I'll do a clear coat over everything. The clear coat is not recommended to do over gold leaf because the shininess of the clear gloss actually kind of interrupts the reflectivity of the gold. I think that's the way I understand it. And if that's the case, when I'm done with that, I'll probably go over and do one more coat of gold leaf. And hopefully that'll be that, and then I'll be able to assemble the box, get all the game pieces and stuff that go inside the box, and yeah. Anyway, you'll see the summation of it all when I do a tutorial about making your own board games. Onassis says, I gotta get back to work. Keep up the good work, Josh. Thanks, Onassis. Love your YouTube channel. Thank you. I work very hard on it, so I'm glad someone loves it. Alright, yeah, so we're just over 2 hours, so it's a good time to cut it off for today. And I'll be back. I've said this a couple times, I'm going to keep saying it till everyone knows it. I will always stream on Wednesday nights at around 7:30 to 8 o'clock. That's when I get home from work. And then on weekends when I'm doing stuff like this, where I'm just hanging out, making art anyway, I'll just go ahead and stream that, because why not? Until I learn otherwise. And yeah, that'll be that. So thanks everyone. I'll hang out in the chat for another minute or two to answer any follow-ups or concerns or questions or comments that pop up. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks guys.